Hello and thank you so much for joining me for some midweek crafting. Tonight I've got a really fun tutorial. This one is called Double Stamped Vellum Technique. Now for this video I'm going to use a stencil instead of a stamp because I don't have a stamp that I wanted to use. The thing I had in my mind I didn't have a stamp for. So we are just going to use a stencil. It's another great way to use up what's in your stash and use your supplies. I'm going to use vellum obviously because we want to make that our focal point. And I've got a few stamps and dies I'm going to use along the way, but of course use what you've got in your stash and adapt it to what you've got. Now I'm going with those two colours there from the Versafine Clair range because I felt really inspired by the packaging on this Pretty Gets Gritty stamp set and stencil, and I'll also use a die from their shop as well. So here are the colour names if you would like to use them and you have these ones in your stash. They work really well together, look beautiful. So I'm going to use a standard card base, which is an A6 card, and I'm going to create a frame to go on the front of my card. Now I'll share with you how you can also do this without having any kind of frame dies. If you've just got a shape die, that will work. I'm going to use some mint tape. This is new in my stash, same with the dies. I had a lot of fun. I went on scrapbook.com, did a massive shopping order, like £160. Ordered some new things, some things that I needed, and I thought, right, bring on the Royal Mail charge. I thought I was going to get dinged again. I've been dinged about £25 every single time I've placed an order, and it's been really expensive, and I got charged nothing. This is the second order in a row that I've done with scrapbook.com and got charged nothing. So if you are needing to shop and you are in the UK, I don't think those fees exist anymore, which is really fun. So it's really nice, and these dies were on half price when I ordered them, which is awesome. So I cut myself a little frame. I then took the larger die and cut myself a square out of vellum, so it was the exact same size as my frame. So really easy, really simple. You just stack the dies together and die cut them out, and you can keep that square for going inside something. So here again, I'm sharing with you as my inspiration for color. And I'm going to use this stamp set here and use the snowflakes. Now, what looks best with this technique is to do either a solid image in the embossing powder or a lined image, but make sure your back images, the colored bits that we're going to do, are solid. It just makes such a difference. So I'm using these sort of outline stamps. They're not a solid image necessarily as my sort of embossed area. And then I'm going to use the stencil because that's more solid and that color really pops a lot more. So I've gone ahead and stamped with my Versafine ink. Make sure you are using an embossing powder bag so you don't get any of that powder sticking to the background of your vellum. Then I'm going to heat set my embossing powder so it's nice and solid and ready to go. So when you're done, you've got this gorgeous piece of vellum that looks nice and custom and bespoke. And we are going to take it and flip it over. So this is the bumpy side. This is the side we just stamped. We're turning it over. We're going to now decorate the back side of it. Really important because sometimes ink takes quite a while to dry on vellum. So we are going to color the back of it so that we can just assemble our card and not have a hot mess on our hands. Now, as I said before, I'm going to use a stencil because I don't have any solid stamps, but if you had solid stamps, you could just go ahead and crack on and stamp the background of your little vellum panel. Now, as I said before, you could go ahead and use whatever stamps you've got in your collection. I just find that it looks better when you've got a more solid image as your colored images. So my stencil works really well for me in this instance. Now I'm taking my low tack tape again, which is the mint tape. It's a really nice low tack adhesive tape. It's like post-it note tape. And I'm adhering my vellum to the back of it. So I'm flipped it back over, so my stencil's now on top. These brushes I've had in my stash for a good 6 months. I don't know why I haven't used them. They are teeny tiny mini blending brushes. And for this, they are perfect. So if you've got a stencil like this and you want to do multiple colors on your stencil, a brush like this is really great. They're just, I think they're just makeup brushes, but they are sold on Alina's site. So I'll put the links down below for you if you want to look at them and check them out. I'll put all the links I can down below. All the items from Pretty Gets Gritty. She has been amazing and she has given me a discount code for you. I think it's 10%. It'll be in the description box. So if you use the code I stick down there, you should be able to get 10% off your order, and she does ship worldwide. So that's really awesome. And the other thing to note as well is if she ships worldwide, and you've paid a postage price and the actual postage is cheaper, she will refund that postage to you. It's just really difficult to estimate and work out how much it's going to be to send it overseas. So she does her best to get the quote right, but if it's incorrect, she will refund the money to you. So that's really amazing. So anyways, here I am. I'm just filling in these little spaces and kind of coloring each of my snowflakes and individually and applying that color to the back of that vellum. So I've got my embossed bit on the front and the color on the back, and that's what kind of makes it the double stamped vellum technique. So obviously if I had a stamp, I would have stamped those images on the back, and you get this really gorgeous two-toned kind of look, and it looks fantastic with the white. I haven't tried it yet in metallic embossing powders, but I imagine that would look really good as well. Now do let this dry for a little bit because it is so tacky. It stays damp for so long. Vellum drives me a bit crazy in that sense because I really struggle to get that ink to dry enough. So this is why we're using the frame. So the frame is going on the front so that, look, I'm getting ink everywhere. I got a little bit of ink there already on my corner of my die, but it's not to worry. All you need to do is get yourself a sand eraser. These can be found at pretty much anywhere that will sell a pencil. They're just an eraser with sand in it, and you can just rub the color right off as long as it's not got too deep of color. Now I'm going to use some not low tack, this is the opposite to low tack tape. This is red line tape. It's like super glue in tape form. And I'm going to use some of this to stick my frame down on the front. And my vellum panel is exactly the same size as my frame. So I'm going to just line up that one side and it should go down nice and smooth and really nice and easy. Now that frame is like a 2-for-1, so not only does it make it look pretty and kind of finish off that panel, but it gives us somewhere to hold it where we're not going to get ink everywhere. So now we've got that edge and we can go ahead and put on some foam tape. Now the foam tape again is purely to keep that ink off the card and give it a bit more of a see-through look, so you can kind of see through that panel a bit better. It also would allow for you to put shaker bits in there if you wanted to, but I think the color is enough. I don't think we need shaker bits inside. But that foam allows us to stick that panel down and we can keep that ink inside and it can kind of carry on drying as it's on there. Now I've got this Christmas stamp set, which is great. It's got a big Christmas and then a whole bunch of little sentiments that go with the word Christmas. And I thought that would be really fun. And I had this flash of inspiration because I was thinking, what color should I stamp these words in? So I went for black for the top little sentiment. And then I thought I would have more fun with those blending brushes. So for the Christmas, I decided that I would do sort of a ombre-ish look between the two colors. So I kind of blended them back and forth. And all you have to do is just apply some of the ink and then apply the next color and kind of overlap those colors a little bit as you're applying the next color. And it gives a really nice blend. Now if you do this, it's worth doing it twice just to make sure you get a really good coverage of ink on it. So I do it the first time and then I do it again, and it's really dead easy to follow because all you have to do is put the color where the color already is. You can see it and then you can stamp it and you get a really cool sort of mixed color. To finish off my card, I'm going to add some Nuvo drops. These are sort of the clear sparkly drops, and I'm just going to dot those around. I'm really terrible at doing random dots, but I do my best. If you have a little oopsie where it kind of plops to the side instead of going round, just take a pokey tool and just kind of gently scrape it off, and you can add some more and no one will know any different. Now if you have not got any of those sort of layering dies, you can also go ahead and take any kind of shape die you've got. So I also have this this die from Pretty Gets Gritty, and it's a huge snowflake. It measures roughly 6 by 6 inches. So I cut myself a square that is 6 by 6 inches. Then I've got a panel of vellum that is about 1/8 of an inch smaller than 6 by 6. And then I did my card base at 6.5 by 6.5. And then that way my little panel can go on top and the vellum panel can hide underneath that top panel. And again, it's the exact same steps. So we're going to die cut our snowflake out of the middle of this one. So again, if you've got like a really small shape die, you could go ahead and use that small shape die and do a smaller version of a card. But I love this giant snowflake and I wanted to have a go. And again, I put ink on it, of course. So I'm going to get my sand eraser out again in a minute. And how fun is this die? It's got like 3 dies in one, which is really cool. So you could do lots of cool layering techniques with this. You could even take those inner bits and pop them back in once you're all done your stamping and inking. So we've done all the exact same steps as the last card, exactly the same. I'm going to go ahead and pop it with some foam straight on top of my card base, my nice 6.5 by 6.5, remove that ink stain. And then because this one has no room for stamping, I'm going to go ahead and use some dies. I've got this Merry and Christmas, which are new in my stash. And they're great. They come with an outline die and the word dies. So I've cut the word dies 3 times each, and I backed the cardstock with double-sided sticky adhesive before I die cut them. That way I can just peel off that backing and stick them on nice and easy. You can go ahead and use liquid glue, but I do find if you use liquid glue and you make an oopsie, the next technique doesn't work so well. So as before, I loved that sort of ink blended look, the Merry and Christmas between the purple and the blue, and it kind of ties into the colors that we've got behind the vellum. So I did that again. And if you have got any glue that's kind of splodged out, you'll end up with a glue resist kind of going on, so you won't get the color where your glue oopsie is. So this is why I chose to use double-sided sticky tape instead. So I stacked those 3 together, colored the words, and now I'm going to pop them up with some foam so that it stands out a little bit more off that card. And another fun trick that you can do as well is you can go ahead and add some glitter onto those words. So if you've got one of those glitter pens, you could go ahead and use that. I've also done a tutorial on how you can make your own glitter pen in your own glitter mixture if you want the same sort of effect but you don't have the pen, or buying them is a little bit expensive. There might be an option available for you in my little tutorial. I'll link that in the top right corner so you can take a look at it. And to finish it off, I'm going to use some of these sequins from Lena's shop, which are the Uber Duber Super Sparkly sequins. Glue those on with a little bit of my glue, and that's my finished card. So 2 different versions of the same technique. Hopefully you've got stuff in your stash to make it work, and you could have a go with this as well. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope you had a lovely time. I cannot wait to see you again on Saturday for some Saturday night crafting. Take care. Have a fantastic week. Bye.